So with all that diversity among the colonists, what would you say were the factors that best contributed to them coming together for the constitutional congresses?
Yeah. So one thing to say is, although they were diverse in that they settled here for different reasons, there was religious variation and economic and variation and differences in their social structures. They're all European of some variety, so that's important to keep in mind. When they start to really unite, the incentives are first and foremost economic, right? So they understand they are each exploiting various resources that are in their colonial region, and that the best and most efficient way to exploit the various strengths of the different regions is to allow for specialization within the regional colonies. And so they start trading together, working together to manufacture off of things that are harvested in the middle colonies or the south. They're using the ships that are being built in New England. So they have an economic reason to start working together in a way and gain familiarity with these colonies going sort of up and down the eastern seaboard of the United States. Then some things happen with England, right? So first is that during the early colonial period, England's not super involved in the governance of the colonies. Because of this, the colonists start getting used to this idea of self-government. In cases where either the company, which is typically a British company, therefore ruled by British law, starts to try to assert themselves over the colonists push back. In 1619, the Virginia Company, which is based in London, actually allows for the first time for Virginians to have a say in the governance of the Virginia colonies. And so what ends up happening is they continue to assert themselves, and they say, your pay, colonial governor, is going to be based on our votes. So you better do the things that we want, or we're out of here, right? And this basically takes off in the other colonies, this idea of having representation, having that tied to decisions over taxation and pay, etc. So there tends to be this common seed of self-governance that's spreading throughout the colonies. This is during what is known as a period of salutary neglect. British aren't really all that involved. Anytime the British try to get a little bit more involved, the colonists kind of balk at that. After the French and Indian War, the British decide, well, it's time to, really kind of figure out what we want to do with these American colonies. And so they become much more involved, largely because they need to pay for the French and Indian War. So they start to impose some tariffs on the colonists, set some non-importation laws in place, and the colonists collectively really balk at this. And when once you have the coercive acts in place, where you actually have British soldiers, staying being quartered in the homes, involuntarily quartered in the homes of American colonists, there starts to be a sense that we need to really share our grievances with Britain. But still at this point, we're not at that revolutionary moment. So there's kind of three groups of people at this moment in time, right? So there are people who are like, I really would like to stay British. We are British. We have the rights of Englishmen, all of those sorts of things. But I'd like the king to kind of back off and go back to the way things were. There are other people like Sam and John Adams who are like, no, and Thomas Paine, no, we need to totally rebel and have independence. And there are other people who just don't have a problem with what the British are doing. This is totally rational. They defended us in this war. We should pay, right? And so as things start to heat up, so you have the Boston Massacre, you have some other actions that make news coverage across the colonies, there's a decision to start thinking about talking with each other about a common defense. And that's why the first Continental Congress is called.